For Montana East Regional News, this is Emily Boyles. Every year we talk about the Special Olympics Law Enforcement Torch Run. What we don't often talk about is that amazing and important connection that some of those law enforcement officers make with individual athletes. I am with Terry Bile, Terry Bile, and with Rocky Smith. And Rocky is an athlete with Special Olympics in the Miles City group. And Rocky, your sport that you participate most in is softball, is that right?
Yeah.
And Rocky has a very special story. He's wearing a medal. Can you show folks the medal that you've got? The medal that he has on today, go ahead and drop it down. The medal that he has on today is a very special medal because it has a very special story about a late officer, Officer Dave Headley from Thompson Falls. So Terry, tell us the story.
Well, it was our first year in 2006 participating in the state Special Olympic Games. And this was Rocky's very first event that he had participated in, and he won a gold medal. And the officer that came up and presented it was Officer Dave Headley with his dog Coco. And we have been participating since 2006, and for several years, every year, the medals that Rocky won in softball throw were presented by Officer Headley.
But then a few years ago, I understand Officer Headley became ill.
Yes. He was diagnosed with leukemia and was going through chemo, and at this point we had gone through Great Falls, and then the state games had moved to Bozeman. And he was at Bozeman giving Rocky his medals. The second year in Bozeman, he was not presenting medals. Rocky was on the medal stand to get his medal for a softball throw and wouldn't take his medal because it wasn't Officer Headley presenting it. To Rocky, Officer Headley at this point had become a very good friend, was not giving his medal, and Rocky was like, no way, I'm not taking it, it's not the right officer. So, short story, we finally got him to take his medal. And through the years at state games, it just, through true coincidence, Officer Headley and his family would end up in the same hotel as us. And one year, he was right across the hall from us, so Rocky and Officer Headley's boys were running back and forth and playing, and I mean, we just got to be very, very close families.
And so Rocky used to email and telephone with Officer Headley, is that right?
Yes.
So he got sicker and sicker, though.
He got sicker and sicker, and this last year in 2012, about a week before state games, I got a phone call from Officer Headley telling me that he was not feeling up to it and was not going to be at the state games. So I was preparing Rocky and telling him that Officer Headley was not going to be there, so you know, we were fine with that. We get to state games. He did his first event, which was a softball throw, and he was okay with his medal. After he got done throwing, we went to visit with Officer Headley's wife, Holly, and watch her boys throw their softballs. And at this time, Rocky was feeling kind of sad, and Holly, you know, asked if we called Officer Headley if he would feel better, and Rocky said yes. So they called. Rocky talked to him for a little bit, and they were done. And a little bit later in the day, Holly came to me and said, "You can't tell anybody, but Dave's on his way." He felt just so bad, and that he just got inspired to come. And she kept track through the day, letting me know he's on his way, he's still okay. And that night at opening ceremonies, when they have the Circle of Honor, where the officers and the athlete bring the torch in and light the flame of hope, the doors opened, and the first officer through the door was Officer Headley and Coco. And at this time, Rocky's looking in total disbelief, and then he looks at me and says, "Mom, you said he wasn't coming," and I says, "But he's here, you know."
He came for you.
He came for Rocky. And Rocky had a present that he had brought to give to Holly to take to Officer Headley, which was this first medal that Officer Headley had presented to him. And on the strap, he wrote to Officer Headley, love Rocky. So later that evening, Officer Headley came to our room and we were able to visit, and Rocky presented him, Officer Headley, with this medal.
Was that the last time that you saw him?
No, actually through the games, Officer Headley made a point to be at every one of Rocky's events he ran. The last day of the state games was the track and field, and Rocky's last event was a 400-meter run. Officer Headley was there at the start line, and he was there with open arms in the pouring rain to greet Rocky in at the end. He walked Rocky over to the medal stand and presented Rocky with the gold medal for his 400. And Rocky was the last athlete that was not one of his own kids to get to that Dave presented a medal to.
And then we lost Officer Headley just a couple months later.
Yes, on September 3rd, Holly texted me and told me that Officer Headley had passed away.
And at his memorial service, the medal came home?
At his memorial service, we were asked to come, and, well, we had already promised Dave and Holly that we would be there, but the law enforcement torch run coordinator, Officer Allen, had called me and asked if Rocky could come and help him deliver the eulogy that he was presenting. And at that ceremony, or at the eulogy or celebration of Officer Headley's life, they presented the medal back to Rocky. So this medal has gone from Officer Headley to Rocky, from Rocky to Officer Headley, and back to Rocky.
That's a very special medal. And that was a very special officer. And thank you so much for sharing your story. And when we come, as we go into the season, this past weekend has been the kickoff for the law enforcement torch run. Officers around the state have met to kick off their drive for this next year. So as the officers go through your town this coming spring, we're going to be thinking, Rocky, about your medal and Officer Dave Headley and all the dedication and service that he and all of our officers have to our Special Olympics athletes. So thank you so much for sharing that story, and we'll look forward to supporting the Special Olympics Law Enforcement Torch Run this next year. If you have a hot news story or a news tip you'd like to share with us, or a story like Rocky's, certainly give us a call or an email at newsdesk@kxgn.com. For Montana East Regional News, this is Emily Boyles.